Thunder cracked across the darkening Wyoming sky as Eliza Grayson clutched her infant daughter tighter to her chest. Her 7 other children huddled around her beneath the inadequate shelter of a large cottonwood tree. The year was 1876, and the promise of a new life in the West had turned into a desperate struggle for survival. "Mama, I'm cold," whispered 6-year-old Samuel, his small body shivering as the first heavy drops of rain began to fall through the branches above. "Hush now," Eliza soothed, though her own voice trembled with exhaustion. "It will pass soon. We'll be warm again before you know it." But even as she spoke the comforting words, Eliza knew they might not be true. 3 days since the wagon had broken down. 3 days since they'd been forced to abandon most of their possessions and set out on foot toward the nearest settlement. The sudden storm had caught them miles from anywhere, with night approaching and the temperature dropping rapidly. 10-year-old Mary, the oldest of the children, moved closer to her mother. "Should I take the baby, Ma? Your arms must be tired." Eliza shook her head. "I've got her, sweetheart. Help keep the little ones together." The rain intensified, driving sheets of cold water that penetrated their meager shelter. Eliza tried to position herself to block the worst of it from reaching the children, but it was a losing battle. Her dress was already soaked through, and she could feel her strength ebbing with each passing minute. "We need to find better shelter," she murmured, more to herself than to the children. But where? The rolling plains offered few options, and moving through the storm with 8 children seemed impossible. The sound of hoofbeats was nearly drowned by another crash of thunder. At first, Eliza thought she'd imagined it a desperate hope manifesting itself as hallucination. But then came a voice, deep and clear, cutting through the storm's fury. "Hello there. Anybody under that tree?" Eliza's heart leaped into her throat. A rider materialized through the curtain of rain, tall in the saddle atop a powerful chestnut horse. As he drew closer, she could make out a broad-shouldered silhouette beneath a wide-brimmed hat and long oilskin coat. "Oh, thank God," she breathed. "Yes, we're here, my children and I." The horseman dismounted in one fluid motion, leading his horse under the tree's canopy. Up close, Eliza could see a weathered face, kind blue eyes, and a jawline darkened with several days' worth of stubble. "Madam," he touched the brim of his hat. "Name's Adam Addison. You folks are in a mighty precarious situation out here." "Eliza Grayson," she replied, unable to extend a hand with the baby clutched to her chest. "These are my children. Our wagon broke down days ago, and we were trying to reach Clearwater." Adam surveyed the bedraggled family with concern etched on his features. "Clearwater's still 15 miles northeast. You won't make it tonight, especially not in this weather." He glanced upward as the tree's protection continued to fail them. "My ranch is about 2 miles west of here. It's not much, but it's dry and warm." "I don't know if the little ones can walk that far in this storm," Eliza said, looking at her youngest walking children, 4-year-old twins James and Joseph, who were already exhausted. "The horse can carry 3 of the smallest, and I can carry 1, Adam said decisively. "The rest will have to walk, but I'll help you." There was no time to deliberate. A fierce gust of wind sent a cascade of water through the branches, drenching them further. Adam moved quickly, helping to organize the children. He lifted the twins onto his horse, then 8-year-old Thomas. "Follow close behind me," Adam instructed as he took the baby from Eliza's arms. "I know these lands like the back of my hand. We'll get there safe." Eliza nodded, gathering her remaining children close. She trusted this stranger not because she had a choice, but because of the steady confidence in his eyes that held no hint of deception. The journey was arduous. The rain lashed at them mercilessly, and the wind threatened to knock the smaller children off their feet. But Adam Addison proved true to his word, guiding them unerringly through the storm, occasionally shouting encouragement over his shoulder. After what felt like an eternity, a structure loomed out of the darkness, a sturdy log cabin with a small barn beside it. Almost there. Adam called back, his voice nearly lost in the howling wind. When they finally stumbled through the door of the cabin, Eliza nearly collapsed with relief. It was simple but clean, with a stone fireplace, a wooden table with chairs, and doors leading to what appeared to be 2 small bedrooms. Adam swiftly built up the fire while Eliza helped the children out of their sodden clothes. "I have some spare shirts in that trunk," he said, nodding toward a large chest in the corner. "They'll swallow the young ones whole, but they're dry." Within half an hour, the children were wrapped in Adam's oversized shirts, huddled before the crackling fire, sipping hot tea sweetened with honey. The baby, little Rebecca, was sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, wrapped in a soft wool blanket. "You have a beautiful family, Mrs. Grayson," Adam said quietly as he sat beside Eliza at the table. "But if you don't mind my asking, where's your husband?" Eliza's face fell. "Jacob died of fever in Missouri 6 months ago. We were heading to Wyoming to start fresh. My brother has a small piece of land near Clearwater he offered to us." Adam's eyes softened with understanding. "I'm sorry for your loss. That's a heavy burden to bear, especially with so many young ones depending on you." "We manage," Eliza said with quiet dignity. "Or at least we were managing until the wagon broke." "Well, you're safe tonight," Adam assured her. "Tomorrow, when the storm passes, I'll ride out and see if anything can be salvaged from your wagon. Where did you leave it?" As they spoke, Eliza studied her rescuer. Adam Addison appeared to be in his mid-30s, with lines at the corners of his eyes that spoke of long days in the sun. His hands were strong and calloused, a working man's hands. Despite his rugged appearance, there was a gentleness in the way he spoke to the children, showing patience as they peppered him with questions about his ranch and his horse. "Are you all alone out here, Mr. Addison?" Eliza found herself asking. A shadow passed over his face. "For 3 years now. My wife and daughter died of smallpox in '73. "I'm sorry," Eliza said softly, understanding all too well the grief he carried. "Life goes on," he replied simply, then stood and stretched. "You and the little ones can take the bedrooms. I'll bunk down here by the fire." Eliza began to protest, but Adam raised a hand to stop her. "I insist, Mrs. Grayson. You've had a harder journey than most, and it's not over yet. Get some rest." That night, as Eliza lay with her youngest children nestled around her in Adam's bed, she listened to the rain beating against the roof, a roof that was keeping them dry, thanks to the kindness of a stranger. Sleep came swiftly, deeper and more peaceful than she had known since Jacob's death. Morning arrived with a washed-clean brilliance, the storm having swept through and left behind a sky of perfect blue. Eliza woke to the smell of coffee and bacon, and the sound of her children's laughter, a sound she hadn't heard nearly often enough in recent months. She found Adam at the stove, flipping flapjacks while Mary set the table and the younger children watched in fascination. Baby Rebecca sat in a wooden box lined with blankets, contentedly chewing on a clean rag. "Good morning, Mrs. Grayson," Adam greeted her. "Hope we didn't wake you." "Your Mary here is quite the helper. Please call me Eliza," she said, smoothing down her rumpled dress. "And thank you for all of this. I don't know how I can repay you." "No need," Adam replied, sliding a stack of flapjacks onto a plate. "Helping neighbors is the way of things out here. Without it, none of us would survive." Breakfast was a lively affair, with the children regaining their spirits after a night of proper rest. Afterward, Adam prepared to ride out to find their abandoned wagon. I'll be back before sundown, he promised, tipping his hat to Eliza. The children should rest today. There are books on the shelf if any of them like stories. After he departed, Eliza set about making herself useful. She organized the children into helping with chores, cleaning dishes, sweeping the cabin floor, and tidying up the bedrooms. 10-year-old Mary helped with washing some of their clothes, hanging them to dry in the warm morning sun. Throughout the day, Eliza found herself repeatedly drawn to the window, watching for Adam's return. There was something about the man that inspired both trust and curiosity. Perhaps it was his quiet competence, or the way sorrow had settled in his eyes without making a home there. He had endured loss without being consumed by it. It was late afternoon when Adam returned, his horse pulling a travois loaded with their salvaged belongings. He had managed to recover most of their clothing, Eliza's cherished family Bible, a small chest containing Jacob's pocket watch and letters, and a few cooking utensils. The wagon's beyond repair, he reported. Axles completely split, and one wheel's missing half its spokes. Eliza's heart sank. Without a wagon, reaching her brother's homestead would be nearly impossible with all the children. I can take you to Clearwater in a couple of days, Adam offered, noting her distress. But I'd suggest resting here a bit longer. The little ones need to regain their strength. That evening, after the children were asleep, Adam and Eliza sat by the fire, each nursing a cup of coffee. "Tell me about your land," Adam said. "Your brother's place in Clearwater." Eliza sighed. "It's not much, 40 acres with a small cabin. David wrote that it has good water and decent soil. He's moving further north with his wife, looking for more land." 40 acres is workable, Adam nodded. "But it's hard land for a woman alone with children, especially with winter coming in a few months." "I don't have many options," Eliza admitted. "Jacob left us with little money. What we had went into the wagon and supplies." Adam was quiet for a long moment, staring into the fire. "Mrs. Grayson, Eliza, I have a proposition for you." Eliza raised an eyebrow, her guard instantly rising. She had received propositions before on the journey west, from men who saw a widow with children as vulnerable prey. But Adam's next words surprised her. "I have 300 acres here. Good water from the creek that never runs dry, even in drought years. The soil's rich in the valley. I raise cattle mostly, but I have a decent vegetable garden and some fruit trees starting to produce." He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "What I'm saying is, there's plenty of room here. The cabin's small, but I've been meaning to add on to it. With your brother's 40 acres as a stake, you could buy in as a partner in this ranch." Eliza stared at him, speechless. "I'm not asking for anything improper," Adam added quickly, a flush rising in his tanned cheeks. "You and the children would have the cabin. I can bunk in the barn until we build an addition. It would be a business arrangement, nothing more." "Why would you offer this?" Eliza asked, bewildered. "You don't know us." Adam's gaze returned to the fire. "Because I remember what it was like after Sarah and Emily died. The emptiness of this place, the silence." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "Your children brought this cabin to life again, and you're a strong woman, Eliza Grayson. I can see it in how you care for your children, in how you've kept going despite everything." Eliza felt tears threatening. It had been so long since anyone had acknowledged her strength rather than just her vulnerability. "I need time to think," she said softly. "Of course," Adam nodded. "Take all the time you need. The offer stands." The days that followed took on an unexpected rhythm. Adam showed Eliza and the older children around the ranch, explaining his operation. He had 30 head of cattle, 6 horses, a small flock of chickens, and a milk cow named Buttercup that the younger children adored. The garden was well tended, but basic potatoes, beans, carrots, and corn. The orchard consisted of a dozen apple trees just beginning to bear fruit, and a few cherry trees. "I'm no farmer," Adam admitted. "The cattle are my main concern, but having fresh vegetables and fruit means fewer trips to town, and that's always a good thing." Eliza found herself evaluating everything with new eyes, not as a guest, but as someone considering a future here. The land was beautiful, with rolling hills giving way to a fertile valley where a clear creek wound its sinuous path. The cabin, though small, was sturdy and well built. And most importantly, her children were happy here. They had room to run and play, chores that gave them purpose, and the comfort of a safe, stable environment. On the evening of their 5th day at the ranch, after the children were asleep, Eliza joined Adam on the porch. The night was clear, the stars spreading across the Wyoming sky in breathtaking profusion. "I've been thinking about your offer," she said quietly. Adam waited, not pressing her. "I'm concerned about propriety," Eliza continued. "A woman and man living on the same property, not married people, will talk." "People always talk," Adam replied. "But our nearest neighbors are 5 miles away, and they're good folks who mind their own business. As for town, it's a day's ride. We'd only go in for supplies once a month or so." Eliza nodded, considering this. "My other concern is more practical. What happens if it doesn't work out, if we find we can't get along, or if the arrangement becomes difficult?" Adam turned to face her directly. "Then I would buy your share at a fair price and help you establish yourself elsewhere. I put that in writing, legal and binding." His forthright answer reassured her. This wasn't a man looking to take advantage, this was a genuine offer of partnership. "One last question," Eliza said. "Why a partnership? Why not just hire me as a housekeeper or offer to rent the land to me?" Adam's expression grew thoughtful. "Because a partnership means you have a stake in making this place succeed. It means your children will inherit something of value. And frankly, because I respect you too much to offer charity." Eliza felt a warmth bloom in her chest at his words. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to her as an equal, not as an object of pity. "Then I accept your offer, Mr. Addison." Adam's face broke into a genuine smile, the first she had seen from him. "I'm glad, Mrs. Grayson. I think this will work out well for all of us." The following days were filled with activity. Adam rode to Clearwater to speak with Eliza's brother and arrange the legal transfer of the 40 acres. He returned with a wagon he had purchased, smaller than their previous one, but sturdy and well-built, loaded with additional supplies for the expanding household. True to his word, Adam moved his belongings to the barn, converting a corner of the hayloft into comfortable living quarters. Meanwhile, he began preparations for expanding the cabin, marking out where new rooms would be added, and starting to fell trees for lumber. Eliza quickly established herself as the manager of the household. The cabin had never been so clean or organized. Meals became regular affairs with balanced nutrition, and the children's education resumed with daily lessons. Mary, Thomas, and Samuel were old enough for formal schooling, and Eliza had been a teacher before her marriage, so she was well equipped for the task. As autumn approached, bringing cooler temperatures and shorter days, the rhythm of ranch life intensified. There was food to preserve for winter, cattle to prepare for the coming cold, and the cabin expansion to complete before snow arrived. Adam found himself increasingly impressed by Eliza's capabilities. She worked from dawn until dusk, managing the children while taking on substantial responsibilities around the ranch. She proved especially adept with the garden, expanding it and implementing crop rotation methods Adam had never considered. For her part, Eliza developed a growing admiration for Adam's character. He was unfailingly kind to her children, patient with even the most tedious of questions from 4-year-old Joseph, and respectful of the boundaries she established. He worked tirelessly on the cabin addition, often by lantern light after his regular ranch duties were complete. One evening in late September, as they sat on the porch after the children were asleep, Adam handed Eliza a folded document. "What's this?" she asked, opening it carefully. "The partnership agreement, signed and notarized. Your brother witnessed it when I was in Clearwater. The ranch is officially half yours now." Eliza's hands trembled slightly as she read through the document. It was generous, more generous than she had expected. In the event of either partner's death, their share would pass to their heirs. If the partnership was dissolved, the departing partner would receive fair market value for their share. Every contingency seemed accounted for. "This is very thorough," she said, looking up at Adam. He shrugged. "I wanted to be sure you felt secure, that your children's future was protected." "Thank you," Eliza said softly. "It means more than I can express." The cabin addition was completed just as the first frost dusted the valley. It added 2 proper bedrooms and expanded the main living area, transforming the modest cabin into a comfortable home. Adam insisted on building proper beds for all the children, and a rocking chair for Eliza to use when tending to baby Rebecca. With the construction complete, Adam returned to his quarters in the barn, though he took his meals with the family and spent evenings by the fire, often telling stories to the children or helping the older ones with their lessons. As winter settled over the ranch, bringing short days and long nights, Eliza found herself looking forward to these evening gatherings with unexpected eagerness. There was something profoundly comforting about Adam's presence, his deep voice reading stories, his patient explanations of arithmetic to Thomas, his gentle teasing of Mary when she got too serious about her studies. One December evening, after a particularly heavy snowfall had kept everyone indoors, 10-year-old Mary approached Adam with a thoughtful expression. "Mr. Addison," she began formally, "may I ask you something important?" "Of course, Mary," he replied, setting aside the harness he was repairing. "Why don't you live in the house with us?" she asked bluntly. "It doesn't make sense for you to trudge through the snow to sleep in the barn when there's room here now." Eliza, who was mending a pair of Joseph's trousers nearby, froze at the question. Adam cleared his throat, clearly caught off guard. "Well, Mary, it wouldn't be proper. Your mother and I aren't. That is, we're business partners, not family." Mary frowned, processing this. "But you take care of us like family, and Mama smiles more when you're around." "Mary!" Eliza exclaimed, her cheeks flushing pink. "That's enough questions for tonight." Later, after the children were in bed, Eliza found Adam still by the fire, staring thoughtfully into the flames. "I apologize for Mary's impertinence," she said, sitting across from him. Adam shook his head. "No need. Children see things clearly sometimes, more clearly than adults, perhaps." A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the crackling of the fire. "She's right about one thing," Adam finally said, his voice low. "It doesn't make much practical sense for me to sleep in the barn, especially with winter setting in properly now." Eliza's heart quickened. "What are you suggesting?" Adam met her eyes directly. "Nothing improper. The addition has that small room off the kitchen. It was meant to be a pantry, but it could fit a bed. I could sleep there with a proper door for privacy and save myself the trek through the snow each night." Eliza considered this. The arrangement would be unusual but not scandalous, especially given their isolated location, and there was a practical logic to it that appealed to her sensible nature. "I suppose that would be acceptable," she said carefully, "as long as we're clear with the children about the boundaries." "Of course." Adam agreed quickly. The new arrangement began the next day, with Adam moving a narrow bed into the small room off the kitchen. The children accepted the explanation that it was more practical during the winter months, though Mary gave her mother a knowing look that Eliza pretended not to notice. Christmas approached, bringing with it a festive atmosphere despite their modest circumstances. Adam rode to Clearwater for supplies, returning with small gifts for each child: carved wooden animals for the younger ones, a proper slate for Thomas, ribbons for Mary's hair, and a rag doll for little Rebecca. For Eliza, he brought a beautiful wool shawl in deep blue. "It matches your eyes," he said simply as she unwrapped it, then quickly busied himself with distributing the children's gifts to hide his embarrassment at the personal nature of the comment. Eliza had prepared gifts as well: new shirts for Adam sewn from fabric she had carefully saved, and small treats and toys for the children crafted from materials around the ranch. Christmas Day was filled with laughter, a special meal of roast venison from a deer Adam had hunted earlier in the month, and singing carols around the fire. As Eliza tucked the children into bed that night, each one sleepy but content with their modest celebrations, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. 6 months ago, she had been a desperate widow with no clear path forward. Now she was a landowner, a partner in a promising ranch, and her children were healthy, safe, and happy. When she returned to the main room, Adam was stoking the fire, his profile strong in the flickering light. "Thank you," she said simply. He turned, raising an eyebrow in question. "For everything," Eliza clarified. "For finding us in that storm, for building us a roof that night, for offering us a future here. I don't think I've properly expressed my gratitude." Adam shook his head. "You've more than earned your place here, Eliza. This ranch has never run so smoothly. The children bring life to this place. If anyone should be grateful, it's me." He hesitated, then added, "After Sarah and Emily died, I thought I would spend the rest of my life alone. I had accepted it, and then you and your children arrived, and suddenly—" He trailed off, seemingly unable to find the right words. Suddenly the silence was filled. Eliza finished for him, understanding completely. Adam nodded, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Exactly." Something shifted between them in that moment, an acknowledgement of feelings that had been growing steadily over the months of working side by side, of sharing meals and stories, of building a life together that was more than just a business partnership. The winter months passed in a rhythm of work and closeness, enforced by the weather. Blizzards occasionally confined them to the cabin for days at a time, during which Eliza taught the children their lessons, worked on sewing projects, and prepared meals, while Adam repaired equipment, whittled new toys for the younger children, and helped with indoor chores. During these confinements, Eliza became increasingly aware of Adam's presence: the sound of his voice reading to the children in the evening, the way his hands moved competently over whatever task he undertook, the warmth of his smile when baby Rebecca took her first tottering steps across the cabin floor. For his part, Adam found himself watching Eliza when she wasn't looking, admiring her quiet strength as she managed 8 children with seemingly boundless patience, appreciating the grace with which she moved through the daily tasks of running a household, noticing how firelight brought out auburn highlights in her dark brown hair. Spring arrived with a rush of activity. Calving season kept Adam busy day and night, often requiring Eliza's assistance with difficult births. The garden needed preparation for planting. Repairs to fences and outbuildings had to be completed after winter damage. And the children, cooped up for months, burst outdoors at every opportunity, requiring constant supervision. Through it all, Adam and Eliza worked as a team, their partnership evolving into something that felt increasingly like a marriage in all but name. They consulted each other on decisions, supported one another through challenges, and shared the responsibility of raising 8 children with a united approach. It was Mary who once again brought the unspoken to light. One evening in late April, as Adam taught Thomas and Samuel how to play checkers, she sat beside her mother who was rocking baby Rebecca to sleep. "Mama," she whispered, "why don't you marry Mr. Addison?" Eliza nearly dropped the baby in shock. "Mary, what a question to ask." "It's not just me wondering," Mary persisted. "Thomas asked me yesterday if Mr. Addison was going to be our new pa, and I've seen how you look at each other when you think no one's watching." Eliza felt heat rise in her cheeks. Had she been so transparent that even her children had noticed? "Mary, these are adult matters that children shouldn't concern themselves with," she said firmly. "Mr. Addison and I are partners in this ranch, nothing more." But Mary, with the piercing insight of childhood, simply gave her mother a knowing look. "If you say so, Mama." That night, after the children were asleep, Eliza found herself unable to settle. Mary's words echoed in her mind, forcing her to confront feelings she had been carefully avoiding examining too closely. She stepped outside onto the porch, hoping the cool night air would clear her thoughts. The moon hung low over the hills, casting silver light across the valley. "Couldn't sleep." Adam's voice came from the shadow at the far end of the porch, startling her. "You scared me half to death," Eliza gasped, pressing a hand to her chest. "Sorry," he chuckled, moving into the moonlight. "I come out here sometimes when my mind is too busy for sleep." "So do I," Eliza admitted, leaning against the porch railing beside him. They stood in companionable silence for a while, gazing out at the moonlit landscape. "Mary asked me today why I don't marry you," Eliza said suddenly, surprising herself with her boldness. Adam's sharp intake of breath was audible in the quiet night. "Did she now?" "She says Thomas has been wondering if you're going to be their new pa," Eliza continued, her heart pounding. "Apparently the children have been discussing it amongst themselves." Adam turned to face her, his expression serious in the silvery light. "And what did you tell her?" "That we're partners in the ranch, nothing more." Eliza met his gaze steadily, "But I'm not sure she believed me." "Smart girl," Adam said softly. "She sees what's there." The air between them seemed to thicken with unspoken words. "And what is there, Adam?" Eliza finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Adam reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand in his. "I think you know, Eliza. I've tried to be respectful of your grief, of the memory of your husband, but my feelings for you have grown beyond partnership or friendship." Eliza felt tears spring to her eyes. "I've felt so guilty," she confessed, "for feeling this way when Jacob's only been gone a year and a half." "Do you think Jacob would want you to be alone?" Adam asked gently. "To deny yourself and your children a chance at happiness?" Eliza shook her head. "No, he was a good man who loved us deeply. He would want us to be happy, to be cared for." "I would care for you, Eliza," Adam said, his voice deepening with emotion. "All of you. I already love your children as if they were my own, and you—" He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "You've brought light back into my life when I thought darkness was all that remained." Eliza felt a tear slip down her cheek. "I never expected to find this again, to find you." Adam gently wiped the tear away with his thumb. "Nor I you, but here we are." "Here we are," Eliza echoed, allowing herself to step closer to him. Adam's arms encircled her, strong and sure, and when his lips found hers in a tender kiss, it felt like coming home after a long journey. The following morning, Adam rode into Clearwater at dawn. He returned late in the afternoon with the preacher from the small church there. and a simple gold band he had purchased from the general store. The wedding took place at sunset, with the children as witnesses and the mountains providing a majestic backdrop. Mary had picked wildflowers for her mother to carry, and baby Rebecca, now toddling confidently, scattered flower petals with more enthusiasm than accuracy. The ceremony was brief but heartfelt. Adam and Eliza exchanged vows that acknowledged their past losses while embracing their future together. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, 8-year-old Thomas let out a whoop of delight that set everyone laughing. That night, after a celebration dinner and the children were finally asleep, Adam took Eliza's hand and led her to the porch. The stars were just appearing in the deepening blue of the evening sky. "You remember that night in the storm?" he asked, drawing her close. "When I found you and the children sheltering under that tree?" Eliza nodded, leaning into his embrace. "How could I forget? We were so desperate, and then suddenly there you were, like an answer to a prayer." "I almost didn't ride out that day," Adam confessed. "The storm was coming in and I should have headed home earlier, but something told me to check the north pasture one last time." "Providence," Eliza murmured. "Perhaps." Adam kissed the top of her head. "Or perhaps just the best kind of luck." Eliza looked up at him, her heart full. "Either way, you found us in the storm, built us a roof that night, and now—" She gestured toward the ranch, their home stretching out before them. "Now we have all of this. Together." "Together," Adam agreed, bending to kiss her properly. "For all the days to come." The years that followed brought both challenges and joys to the Addison ranch. The hard work of cattle ranching was offset by the satisfaction of watching their operation grow and prosper. The children thrived under the loving guidance of both parents, with Mary eventually becoming a teacher at the Clearwater School, Thomas showing a natural aptitude for ranching, and the younger children developing their own talents and interests. 2 years after their marriage, Eliza gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl named William and Sarah, the latter named in loving memory of Adam's first wife. The older children doted on their new siblings, and Adam found profound healing in holding his newborn daughter, seeing in her a second chance at the fatherhood that had been cut short years before. The ranch expanded as neighboring properties became available, until the Addison spread was one of the most substantial in the county. They built a larger house as their prosperity increased, though they kept the original cabin standing as a reminder of where their journey together had begun. On the 10th anniversary of the night Adam had found Eliza and her children in the storm, they held a special celebration. Friends and neighbors gathered at the ranch for a feast and dancing. But the most meaningful moment came when Adam presented Eliza with a gift, a small painting he had commissioned of the old cottonwood tree where they had first met. "To remind us," he said as she unwrapped it, "that sometimes life's greatest blessings come disguised as disasters." Eliza, her eyes shining with tears, reached up to touch his face, now bearing more lines but still as dear to her as ever. "I thank God every day for that storm," she whispered, "and for the cowboy who built us a roof that night." Adam kissed her tenderly, the love between them as strong as the day they wed. Around them, their children now numbering 10, with the addition of the twins, laughed and played, the living embodiment of the family they had built together, founded on compassion, partnership, and a love that had begun in the most unlikely of circumstances. As twilight settled over the Wyoming ranch, Adam and Eliza stood on the porch of their home, hands intertwined, watching their children. The journey from that stormy night to this moment of contentment had not been without its struggles, but every challenge had only strengthened their bond. Every obstacle overcome had deepened their commitment to one another. "I love you, Eliza Addison," Adam said softly, the words as heartfelt now as the first time he had spoken them. And I love you, Eliza replied, leaning her head against his shoulder. Today, tomorrow, and for all the days to come. Above them, stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky, the same stars that had witnessed their beginning, now bearing testimony to the enduring love of a cowboy and a mother of 8 whose lives had been forever changed by a storm, a tree, and the shelter they had built together.